This is a video and demonstration of how the transmission works on any of Honda's 3-speed or 4-speed motors. 3 speeds come in 2 different shift patterns: 3 down, which has neutral at the top and third all the way down, and 3 up, which has neutral all the way at the bottom and third gear all the way at the top. 3 down transmissions were found on Z50Rs from when they first came out in '68, or maybe it was '69, to 1987, which was the last year of the 3 down. 1988 newer 50cc 3-speed motors, which includes the Z50R, XR50, and CR50, have 3 upshift patterns. Now there are also 4 down motors, 4 up motors, and 1 down 3 up motors. These are found on CT70H models, SL70s, XL70s, and ATC70s. Anyway, the motor works from when you push down on the shift lever, which would obviously be mounted on the other side. It'll pull on the shift arm, which pulls on pins behind the shift star, which I'll show you, and pulls it into gear. And then it ratchets back so they can pull the next pin and pull it into the next gear. Right now it would be in first gear, and then you would go back up on the shift lever into neutral. So from neutral you would pull it down to first gear, and you notice how the shift lever ratchets back, down to second gear and ratchets back, and then down to third gear. And from third gear you can't go anywhere. This is not a rotary shift. From third gear you can only go back up to second, back up to third, and to first, ratchets back, and then first gear. Here you can see what's behind the shift star. These are the pins. Now you can see the shifter. Oops, hold on. Normally the shift star would prevent it from doing that. Okay. So now this will pull it back, and the shift star would allow this to ratchet by holding this back, and also the spring-loaded wheel, which is not spring-loaded right now, would hold this in place so that this would not push it back when it tries to ratchet. And you'll be able to go back down in the second gear, and then once again pull it into third. And from third gear you'll be able to go to second and ratchet back, and first, and it would ratchet back, and then to neutral, at which point you can't go anymore. This is the transmission with the case apart, and I'm just going to show you what happens when you actually shift. Hold on, kickstart's engaged. Okay, so here's just the transmission with the crank over here. Now, right now, the transmission is in neutral. So even when this is spinning, although that looks like it's spinning, it doesn't have to spin. It's just spinning from the friction of oil between the gears. Now when you shift into first gear, hold on now. It's first gear right there. And there's second gear. And there's third gear. Back down to second. Back to first. And here's neutral. Now the transmission works since it's a constant mesh transmission. Notice the gears never unmesh. There's actually dogs inside there. But now by dogs I mean those pins on the gears, which fit into corresponding notches on some of the gears. Oops. Transmissions are pretty complicated, and you don't want to put any of the washers together, put any of the washers in the wrong place, so if you think you're going to take apart your transmission, make sure that you feel comfortable with all these little washers and putting them all back in the exact right place. So here's neutral, where you see this gear here, this gear is not engaged to this, or you can see that this gear, this is what I'm talking about. This is not engaged to the shaft, because even though the shaft isn't spinning, the gear can spin. And this one, this gear here, is engaged to this shaft, but the gear that it turns is not engaged with the shaft it spins on. In the bottom gear, it is engaged, this gear is engaged to this shaft, but it's corresponding, hold on a second now, what am I missing? This bottom gear is in fact not engaged with the shaft that it spins on. It may seem like it, but that's just because I'm not completely in neutral. Okay, here we go. I'm spinning this shaft, but the gear at the bottom is not spinning. So you know that every single one of these cannot transmit power from one shaft to the other. Now when you go to first gear, obviously everything works better when it's spinning. You'll see that the dogs that are in this gear will fit into the notches in this gear. Now power is transmitted from one gear to the other to the shaft. Now when you go to second gear, those two gears disengage. Hold on now. It's hard to get this to a perfect place where it'll shift to all the gears without spinning. So now I'm trying to get this to any place where it'll go to second gear. Okay, anyway, here's second gear. You'll see the dogs in this gear are engaging with the ones in that gear now, and that'll allow power to transmit from one to the other. And now when you move to third gear, they all disengage, except this gear now has dogs engaging into the notches in this gear, allowing power to be transmitted differently from one shaft to the other. So here you can see all the gears working. Neutral, first gear, second gear, third gear. It's pretty neat. Neutral, first gear. Hold on, orange. Neutral, first gear, second gear, third gear. And that's all controlled by the shift shaft, which was explained earlier in this video.